let's learn how to play Terabox. In today's video, we're going to be going over the deck list, explanation of the cards, and some test hands. If you're only looking for the gameplay, I actually already have it on my channel. I'll have the link right here and in the description if you want to go check it out. I also have the timestamp right down below if you want to skip around the video. But other than that, let's get into the deck list. For the Pokemon, you have 2 Wellspring Ogerpon EX, 2 Teal Ogerpon EX, 1 Cornerstone Ogerpon EX, 1 Pikachu EX, 1 Terapagos EX, 1 Lillie's Clefairy EX, 1 Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, 1 Fezandipiti EX, 1 Latias EX, 1 MEW EX, 1 Ditto, 2 Fan Rotom, 1 80 HP Hoothoot, 3 70 HP Hoothoot, and 4 Noctowl. Man, that was a lot of Pokemon. For the supporter, we have 3 Crispin, 2 Boss's Order, 1 Iono, 1 Professor Research, and 1 Professor Tera Scenario. For the items, you have 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, 2 Energy Switch, 2 Night Stretcher, 1 Earthen Vessel, 1 Switch, 1 Counter Catcher, and 1 Sparkling Crystal. For the Stadium, you have 3 Arrow Zero. For the energies, you have 4 Grass, 2 Psychic, 1 Water, 1 Fighting, 1 Lightning, and 1 Metal. And here's an overview of the deck. Alright, let's go over all the cards and what it does. First off, we have Wellspring Ogerpon EX. You want to use Wellspring in the early game because of its second attack. For 1 water and 2 colorless, it does 100 damage. And you shuffle all the energies back into your deck. You can do 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And since Manaphy is not in rotation anymore, that's really busted. But sometimes you can also use the first attack as well, Stop. For 1 colorless energy, it does 20 damage. And during your opponent's next turn, they cannot retreat the Pokemon. So basically, it's an attack to stall your opponent. Next, we have Teal Ogerpon EX. We're going to be mainly using him for his ability. Once per turn, you may attach a grass energy into him. And if you do so, you get to draw 1 card. But if your opponent's active Pokemon is weak against grass, you can also use him as an attacker. For 3 grass energy, he does 30 damage for each energy attached to both Pokemon. Next, we have Cornerstone Ogerpon EX. You want to use him as an attacker whenever your opponent's active Pokemon has ability, because the ability states, prevent all damage from attack done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that has ability. And his attack costs 1 fighting energy and 2 colorless. It does 140 damage, and the attack isn't affected by weakness or resistant or any effect of your opponent's active Pokemon. So the attack goes through everything including Mimikyu and Melodic EX. Next, we have Pikachu EX. You want to use Pikachu against Pokemon that has a lot of HP. The attack costs 1 grass energy, 1 lightning, and 1 metal. It does 300 damage, but you have to discard all 3 energies. You might be thinking that's a lot of energy, but that's why we're running Crystal. But we'll talk more about that later once we get into the item section. Let's talk about Pikachu's ability as well. The ability states, this Pokemon has full HP and will be knocked out by damage from an attack, and its remaining HP becomes 10. So it forces your opponent to attack Pikachu twice. Next, we have Terapagos EX. Both of the attack is really useful. The first one costs 2 colorless energy, and it does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. But you cannot use this attack if it's your first turn going second. And since we're running Area 0, we can have up to 8 Pokemon on the bench. So if you have a max bench, that means it's 240 damage. The second attack costs 1 grass energy, 1 water, and 1 lightning. It does 180 damage, but the effect is what makes it good. The effect states, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attack from basic non-normal Pokemon. It's really good into decks like Raging Bolt that only use basic EX Pokemon. Next, we have Lillie's Clefairy EX. You want to use this as an attacker whenever you face Dragon types deck. For example, Dragapult or even Raging Bolt. Because the ability states, the weakness of each of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon is now Psychic, and the attack costs 1 Psychic energy and 1 colorless. It does 20 damage plus 20 more damage for each of your bench Pokemon, yours and your opponent. So it can basically one-shot any Dragon type Pokemon. And it can also do a lot of damage to other type Pokemon as long as you have a lot of Pokemon on the bench. Next, we have Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX. This will be your late game attacker, because the ability states, this Pokemon costs 1 less energy for each prize card your opponent has taken, and his attack does 240 damage. Next, we have Fezandipiti EX. This will be your supporting Pokemon. We're going to be mainly using it for his ability. Once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. But sometimes if you really need to, you can use the attack as well. For 3 colorless energy, it does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Next, we have Latias EX, another supporting Pokemon. We're only going to be using it for the ability, which states your basic Pokemon in play have no retreat costs, and you're running all basic Pokemon besides Noctowl, so you can have free retreat for all of them. Next, we have MEW EX, another supporting Pokemon. We're going to be mainly using him for the ability. Once you're in your turn, you may draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So you have no cards in your hand, you can use MEW ability first to draw 3, plus Fez to draw another 3. That's a plus 6. But also MEW's attack is also very situational as well. For 3 colorless energy, you get to copy your opponent's active Pokemon's attack and use it as attack. Pretty good attack, but it's very situational. Next, you have Fan Rotom. It has a really useful ability, and it can be a good one-prize attacker as well. The ability states, once during your first turn, you may search your deck for 3 normal Pokemon with 100 HP or less, and add it to your hand. This is good to search out your Ditto, Hoothoot, and Noctowl. His attack costs 1 colorless energy and does 70 damage, but you need a stadium in play in order to use it, which is fine because we're running multiple stadiums. Next, we have Ditto. It's only in here for its ability, which states, once during your first turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may search your deck and choose a basic Pokemon and replace it with a Ditto. You can either search out your Fan Rotom or whatever EX Pokemon you're looking for. Hoothoot evolves into a Noctowl, which we are using for the ability. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve, if you have any Tera Pokemon in play, you may search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards and add it to your hand. And we have a lot of Tera Pokemon, so we can always use this. Let's talk about the supporters now. Crispin's the main power of this deck. You get to search your deck for 2 basic energy cards of different types. You put one in your hand, and you get to attach one to one of your Pokemon. You pair this up with Sparkling Crystal and you can basically attack with any of your Tera Pokemon. Boss's Order lets you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active. Iono lets you draw and disrupt your opponent's hand. Professor Research lets you discard your whole hand and draw 7. Professor Turiel lets you put one of your Pokemon in play back into your hand. It's good to bring back Noctowl so you can reuse it again. Or if you have any damage on your Pokemon, you can bring it back up as well. Alright, let's talk about the items. Nest Ball and Ultra Ball lets you search out your Pokemon. Nest Ball is only basic Pokemon and you have to put on your bench. Ultra Ball is any Pokemon, but you have to discard 2 cards. Energy Switch lets you move a basic energy from one Pokemon to another Pokemon. So that's why we're running Teal Ogerpon. We use the ability and then use Energy Switch to put it into a different Pokemon. Night Stretcher lets you put one Pokemon or one basic energy from your discard pile back into your hand. Earthing Vessel lets you search out 2 energy by discarding 1 card. Switch lets you switch your active Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. Countercatcher lets you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active, but only have more prize cards than your opponent. Sparkling Crystal, the power of this deck, it's a tool that when you attach to a Tera type Pokemon, the energy cost of their attack costs 1 less. And lastly, for the stadium, we have Era 0. If you have a Tera Pokemon in play, you can have up to 8 Pokemon on the bench. But if your Tera Pokemon gets knocked out, it goes back to 5, and you have to discard them. If you have any questions or concern about this deck, please let me know in the comments. Alright, let's do some test hand. We're gonna have one for going first and one for going second. For this deck, we want to go first. Jumping into our first test hand, this will be for going first. I'm gonna shuffle a little bit before we get into it. And usually for my test hand, I only do like the first turn. But for this deck, I want to show you guys more of like the combo and how you can pull off the attack for certain Pokemon. So we're probably gonna take it to maybe like turn 2 or maybe even turn 3. But most likely just turn 2, just because during your second turn, all you literally need is a Crispin and Crystal, and depending on which Pokemon you're trying to attack. You can get that out with Noctowl, pretty simple. But now that I finished shuffling, I'm gonna offer my opponent they want to cut. So I'm gonna pretend to be the opponent. And then let's draw our 7 cards here. Got 4, 3. And we do have a basic. I'm actually gonna put the Ditto up just because we know Ditto has ability. If it's in the active, it can replace this with a basic Pokemon from our deck. And let's do our prizes right here. Then let's flip our card over. I'm gonna draw my card, and then I'm gonna place down this Hoothoot. I'm gonna place down this Teal Ogerpon, and then we're gonna use Ditto's ability to get the Fan Rotom right here. Because once we get Fan Rotom, we can get out a lot of our other Pokemon, like the Hootoots and the Noctowls. I'm gonna just briefly do a quick deck check. I just know that we have Sparkling Crystal right there. So I'm gonna replace the Ditto with the Fan Rotom, and then I'm gonna use Fan Rotom's ability, because there's nothing else you can really do with our hand, to get 3 normal type Pokemon that are 100 HP or less. So here I'm actually gonna get 2 Hoothoot and 1 Noctowl. More Hootoots, the better. If anything, since we're testing this, we don't really know what we're up against. So I'm actually gonna get 2 Noctowls here, and let's pretend like we're not gonna get Iono next turn. So we're gonna place that down, and then I'm gonna shuffle the deck a little bit. Actually, before we go and do that, I do have an Earthen Vessel in my hand, which I might just Earthen Vessel away the Cornerstone because we don't need it in this matchup. But if we do need the Cornerstone, we would probably get rid of maybe a Psychic Energy or the Grass Energy, since we know there's a lot of grass in our deck. So let's get rid of the Teal Ogerpon right there to get some energies. And we're gonna most likely, I'm gonna get the water and another grass, so that way we can draw for next turn as well. So we're gonna shuffle our deck here. And then we ask our opponent if they wanna cut, pretend to cut. And then let's go for that first Teal Dance right here. We're gonna Teal Dance right here, draw for 1. Got another Hoothoot, so I guess we don't really need to get all 3 Hootoots. We're just gonna top deck it anyways. And place it down, and then I'm gonna attach this Psychic Energy onto the Fan Rotom. And I would only do that if we know our opponent cannot knock this out. If they were to knock it out, I'll probably put it onto one of the Hootoots. But let's do it to the Fan Rotom right here. And then we pass our turn. Our opponent passes their turn. Now it's our turn 2. And here's where it gets special, because right now, let's pretend our opponent, let's say it's Dragapult, they only have 2 Dreepies out. So what we do is we're gonna Noctowl, the first Noctowl, to get out. Most likely we're gonna do the Crispin and Crispin, and a Nest Ball. We're gonna get these two out first. We have not used the Teal Mask Ogerpon yet, which I probably should have used first because I do have the grass in my hand. So I'm gonna Nest Ball first though, to thin out my deck. Maybe we can hit another thing that we do need. Let me just put this down here. Hope you guys can see that. Let's shuffle our deck because we're gonna do Teal Mask right now before we use our second Noctowl. So we're gonna Teal Mask Ogerpon to draw one, and we got the Crispin. So this is why you do sequencing correctly. But other than that, I'm gonna Crispin here to get I'm probably gonna do 2 grass here. Yeah, let's do 2 grass. One gets added to our hand, the other one gets attached. So I'm gonna do that to the Teal Mask Ogerpon. Before I shuffle, we're most likely gonna go back in anyways because we're gonna use the second Hoothoot. So I'm gonna use the second Hoothoot here to get, I'm going to get probably an energy switch. And let's go with Area 0 so that way we can expand our board if we need to. So now our board is looking insane. Let's offer our opponent they want to cut or tap here. We're gonna play the Area 0. We're going to energy switch from one of our Teal Masks over here since they have a lot. And then we have an attach energy for turn. So we're gonna attach the water energy. That's 3 energies to use the second attack. And then we have the switch in hand, which we're gonna switch. And then we use the second attack, which shuffle the energy into the deck, and we knock out 2 Pokemon that are under 100 HP. And then for next turn, we have Crispin that we can probably get something else. And we can start attacking again, depending on what their board is. And we have the energy to Teal Mask as well. And that is it for going first. Jumping into our second test hand, this will be for going second. I'm just gonna shuffle a little bit. Like I said earlier, this deck, you wanna go first, but going second is not too bad. You just lose the kind of like the power to use Wellspring Ogerpon before your opponent gets to set up their board. But this deck has a lot of ways you can go through things, so going second is not bad at all. Now we offer our opponents they want to cut, so I pretend to cut, and then we draw our 7 here. There's 4, 2, and the 7th card. And we do have a basic and our sparkling in our hand, which is pretty good, but we don't have any stadium, so we can't attack this turn, but that's okay. So I'm gonna put that down, and then do our prizes right here. Then let's flip our card, and let's see what we top deck. We got a Fez, which is fine. I think we have to use Hoothoot here, for sure, put that down. And then we use Fan Rotom. I'm gonna see if we have our Ditto, because we need to get a Tera Pokemon in play. Just because, in order to use Noctowl's ability, we do need a Tera Pokemon, but we do not have that. So we just have to settle with probably, actually we have an Ogerpon in my hand. What am I talking about? So I'm just gonna get Hoothoot, probably 2 Hoothoot and a Noctowl. Let's go with, yeah, 2 Hoothoot and a Noctowl. So we add these 2 to the bench, and then we put this to our hand. And I'm gonna Ultra Ball away the Lillie's Clefairy and the 1 energy, because we can always get that back with a nice stretcher to get out our Teal Mask Ogerpon. So that way we have a Tera Pokemon in play, and your opponent might boss it up. So it depends on the situation. You might not even want to put that down. You might want to save it and have that Ultra Ball in your hand for next turn to get it before your opponent can target that down. And then we don't have any Tera Pokemon, but we do have Fez in our hand. So now we did all that. We already used Fan Rotom. We're just gonna Teal Mask, attach our grass energy, and we draw 1. We got Bloodmoon Ursaluna, but that's not what we're looking for, but that's fine. So let's say we pass our turn, and then our opponent passes it back to us. Let's say they do decide to knock out the Fan Rotom. We're gonna pretend like they knocked it out, take their one prize. We're gonna bring up the Teal Ogerpon here, and then we're gonna draw our card. And then let's say our opponent has a very big HP Pokemon, for example, Archidrolodon. So what we're gonna first do is, of course, we're gonna go with the Pikachu route. I forgot to deck check earlier if we have Pikachu, so let's nest ball to see if we have the Pikachu. We do not have the Pikachu, so we have to go with another option. So Archidrolodon has the ability, so I'm most likely gonna bring out the Cornerstone, but before we do that, we should definitely check if we have a fighting energy, which we do, so we're fine there. So I'm gonna shuffle because we're most likely gonna Fez before we use our Hootoots. So I'm gonna pretend to cut. We nest ball our Cornerstone. Like I said, we're going against Archidrolodon. And then I'm gonna use my Fez to draw 3 since our Pokemon got knocked out. 2, 3. We got the fighting energy in our hand. And then we have a Turo. So now we definitely have to use the Noctowl. We're gonna use the Noctowl to most likely get Crispin, and we're gonna do the Stadium, I think. It's either that or we get an Ultra Ball. So that way next turn we have something to draw. But I think I'm gonna go with the Stadium plus Crispin. So we're gonna do that, put the Stadium down. I'm gonna activate the Crispin, which we already have the fighting in our hand. So we're most likely just gonna grab Grass. Plus, well, we have to do two different energies. So yeah, it's gonna have to be the Grass and the Lightning here. So we're gonna attach the Lightning to our Teal Ogerpon. Then we can shuffle that. Then, since we have this Grass energy, before we attach for turn, we can actually Teal Ogerpon to draw another card to see what we have. We have a Research, that's really good now, so our hand is not dead next turn. I'm gonna place down the Mew, and then I'm gonna attach for turn the Cornerstone Ogerpon here. And then I'm gonna attach the Crystal, that way we can attack with our Cornerstone, and then we retreat using 1 energy, and then we swing for 140, but like I said, we're going up against Archidrolodon, which means they cannot attack this. They have to find a way to gust up any of our other Pokemon. But yeah, that is it for our second test hand for going second. That is it for this deck guide. If you're looking for gameplay of this deck, make sure you guys check out this video right here. If not, check out this other video right here. And other than that, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Whoosh.